So, Thor Ragnarok later this year is on its way to theaters worldwide. And, I'm going to be honest, this storyline, at least from where I can see from the outside, having not seen the movie yet, it shares a good amount of common with storylines other than the original Thor Ragnarok storyline, which is something I'm not really familiar with. I'm going to be honest, I haven't really read many, if at any all, Thor comics up until Jane Foster took over the role of Thor and Thor started going by Odinson. Well, I'll be honest, it's probably a good thing that they have different names because tracking down comic issues is already hard enough without two different series with going with two different but similar names that are only tangentially related to each other actually having the same name. Although it will confuse people who read this version, the last issue of the original Thor comic, and then read the new issue of Jane Foster and just wonder, without reading the original Sin storyline, why Thor still doesn't have his hammer anymore. But let's stop this tangent and get back on the actual tangent of Thor Ragnarok actually leading into Planet Hulk, the story that we're going to be talking about today, and why this actually makes me more hyped for Thor Ragnarok as a result. So, with Marvel's Civil War on the way, there were two things Marvel had to do to sort of balance out the power levels and make it realistic. They had to get rid of two of the strongest characters on their roster, the Incredible Hulk and the Mighty Thor. This is also something that happened in the Avengers movies as well, because in Avengers 2, Thor backed off back to Asgard and the Hulk kind of ran off on his own before Captain America Civil War. Also, I just want to make a side note that it's kind of funny how out of Civil War and Civil War 2, which are both steaming piles, the only good thing to actually carry the name Civil War is the Captain America movie that took the name from the bad comic. Kind of hilarious in hindsight. It's very much a case where the movie is actually better than the book it's based off of, only slightly, because it's really not based on that book at all. Anyway, yeah, so basically how they tried to balance out the powers was they killed off Thor in the Thor Ragnarok storyline, which is what they're doing in the movie. Probably not going to kill Thor, right? Hope not, at least. And they shot the Hulk into space, leading into this story. Now, there are a number of stories that lead from it, aside from a particular story that shall not be named, but this is one of the better stories that came from the Civil War comic book, because, Hulk in space. So the actual plot is the Hulk is shot into space by the Marvel Universe's version of the Illuminati, which is a group of various super scientists and other important individuals from different communities in the Marvel Universe coming together for the greater good. However, they always seem to screw up said greater good. First off, we have Iron Man Tony Stark, Black Bolt of the Inhumans, who's getting his own TV show, or at least the Inhumans are getting their own TV show later this year. Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, not aware if he's going to get a reboot yet. Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, who has a pretty good movie. Charles Xavier of the X-Men, although he really wasn't present for the meeting where they decided to do this. As well as Namor St. Mariner, who has not appeared on screen yet, surprisingly, who was really against the idea of sending the Hulk into space. This is all important for later when Hulk comes back, because of course he comes back, it's Marvel Comics. They can't leave the Hulk out in space forever. They decided to send him into space after the Hulk destroyed Las Vegas on a rampage that I didn't really know why he did that. I'm pretty sure it was a supervillain of some kind. They thought it best send him to some isolated planet where he'd be at peace by himself without being able to hurt anything. Well, telling your friend that you've helped save the world alongside multiple times that, yeah, sorry buddy, you're too much of a dangerous hazard, while he's strapped into a spaceship of your own design, is kind of the worst idea you could think of, because the Hulk in the middle of the message, which really you guys didn't see us coming, smashes up the spaceship and causes it to go off course into a wormhole. He ends up wrecking the shuttle and ends up stuck on the planet of Sakaar, where everyone is just as, if not almost as strong as the Hulk himself. He ends up stuck in slavery and forced to be a gladiator under the Red King. Of course, the Hulk, being the Hulk, doesn't take kindly to the whole slavery thing, and ultimately strikes out on his own alongside a group of former gladiators that become known as his war band. They originally just want to avoid the Red King as he sends attack after attack to kill them all, because they're stirring up upheaval in the Empire. But eventually they all decide to just go with a straightforward path of rebellion and just kick the king off his throne. aside from the plot, the story revolves around Hulk's search for a new identity in this new scenario. He has difficulty finding a purpose after being exiled from his home that he saved time and time again as he searches for a new home on his alien world. He's originally disinterested in pretty much everyone and everything around him as he just wants to survive on his own, but eventually manages to have some of his more heroic traits come out time after time to the point where he gives a damn and wants to help save the world, eventually deciding that this will be his new home. This is also the Hulk at his most brutal and savage at points as he's tested to the limits of his own strength on this world. Overall, this is the greatest use to keep the Hulk off Earth and away from the awful Civil War storyline, as well as leading into the really fun World War Hulk storyline, as well as showing the Hulk actually struggling against some mighty foe that isn't another gamma powered mutant of some kind. There's also an animated movie for this, and it does streamline the plot quite a bit, but again, if you're just looking for another fun Hulk story, I do recommend that as well as Hulk Versus, which is a really fun Hulk story. Again, overall, this is a pretty fun tale with some great implications for the Marvel Universe as a whole, and, you know, we get to see the Hulk at one of his best Hulk moments, so yeah, read Planet Hulk before Thor Ragnarok because it's very much influenced, but it's very much an influence on that movie.